The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Our son. Not your son. Not Connor. Our son. My sister Vanessa realized it the second it left her mouth. Her hand flew up to cover her lips, eyes going wide, the coffee mug in her other hand trembling just enough that liquid sloshed over the rim. We were standing in my kitchen on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Connor was upstairs getting ready for school. The sunlight coming through the window made everything look normal, safe, like nothing could shatter. But I heard it. Those two words that didn't belong. I stood there, frozen by the sink, dish towel in my hands, staring at my sister's face as it cycled through panic, then calculation, then that smile she always used when she was about to lie. I meant, you know what I meant, Sarah. He's like our son. The whole family's son. You know how close we all are. I didn't say anything. I just watched her scramble. And in that moment, 12 years of small inconsistencies, weird comments, and gut feelings I'd ignored suddenly lined up like dominoes waiting to fall. That afternoon, I ordered a DNA test kit. 48 hours later, I had an answer that turned my entire life inside out. Before I tell you what I did with that information, tell me where you're watching from. Drop a comment so I know I'm not the only one who's learned that sometimes the people closest to you are hiding the biggest lies. Let me take you back to where this started. 13 years ago. I was 27, married to David for 3 years, living in Sacramento. We had the kind of life people put on Christmas cards. Nice house in the suburbs, good jobs, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Biscuit. The only thing missing was a baby. We'd been trying for 2 years. Every month, the same routine. Hope, waiting, disappointment. The doctor said there was no medical reason it wasn't happening. Keep trying. Stay relaxed. It'll happen when it happens. That phrase made me want to scream. My sister Vanessa was 23 then. 4 years younger, completely different life trajectory. She'd dropped out of college after 1 semester, moved back home with our parents, worked random retail jobs. Mom called her free-spirited. Dad called her irresponsible. I called her every week because despite everything, she was my little sister and I loved her. In October 2011, Vanessa called me at 11 p.m., crying so hard I could barely understand her. Sarah, I messed up. I really messed up. What happened? I'm pregnant. The words hit me in 2 ways. Sadness that she was pregnant and I wasn't. Immediate protective instinct because she sounded terrified. Okay, I said, forcing calm into my voice. It's okay. We'll figure this out. Who's the father? It doesn't matter. He's gone. It was just a thing. He doesn't even know, and I don't want him to know. I flew down to San Diego the next morning. Found Vanessa on our parents' couch, eyes swollen, surrounded by wadded tissues. She was 8 weeks along. Mom was furious. Dad wasn't speaking to her. The house felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. I can't do this, Vanessa whispered to me that night. We were sharing her old bedroom, lying in the dark like when we were kids. I'm not ready to be a mom. I don't have money. I don't have a place. I can barely take care of myself. What do you want to do? I asked carefully. Long silence. Then, I don't know. Adoption, maybe? But that feels so. I don't know. I just wish. She trailed off. I didn't say it that night. But the thought formed quietly in my mind, dangerous and tempting. What if she didn't have to give the baby to strangers? What if the baby stayed in the family? 3 days later, over breakfast at a diner, I said it out loud. What if David and I raised the baby? Vanessa looked up from her pancakes, fork frozen halfway to her mouth. What? You don't want to parent. I desperately want a child. We're family. The baby would know both of us. It's not like a closed adoption where they'd never see you. You'd be Aunt Vanessa. You could be as involved as you wanted without the responsibility of being the mom. I watched emotions flicker across her face. Relief. Uncertainty. Hope. You'd really do that? Yes, I said. And I meant it. In that moment, it felt like the perfect solution. Everyone wins. We brought the idea to our parents that night. Mom cried. Dad looked relieved. David, when I called him, was cautiously supportive. Are you sure? This is a huge decision. I'm sure, I told him. I was so sure. The lawyer we hired explained it clearly. Vanessa would carry the baby to term. At birth, she'd surrender parental rights. David and I would adopt. Legal, clean, permanent. The baby would be ours in every way that mattered. Vanessa moved in with us in December 2011. The pregnancy was easy. She glowed. I went to every appointment, held her hand during the ultrasound, cried when we found out it was a boy. David painted the nursery blue. I assembled the crib. Vanessa folded tiny clothes and joked that this was the weirdest pregnancy in history. I'm growing your baby, she said one night, lying on our couch with her swollen belly visible under her shirt. That's so bizarre when you think about it. Our baby, I corrected gently. He's going to be so loved. Connor Michael Hayes was born on May 3, 2012, at 6:47 a.m. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. When the nurse placed him in my arms, my whole world rearranged itself around this tiny human. I had never felt love like that. Instant, overwhelming, absolute. Vanessa held him for maybe 5 minutes in the hospital. I watched her face carefully, terrified she'd change her mind. But she just smiled, kissed his forehead, and said, "He's all yours, Sarah. Take good care of him." I will, I promised. I swear I will. The adoption was finalized when Connor was 3 months old. Legal and binding. Vanessa moved back to San Diego. Life moved forward. I became a mom. David became a dad. Connor grew. Everything was perfect. Except it wasn't. Not really. Because over the next 12 years, there were moments, small, strange moments I explained away. Like when Connor was 2 and Vanessa visited for Christmas. She spent the whole week hovering. When he cried, she'd instinctively move toward him before catching herself. When he called me Mama, something flickered in her eyes. You okay? I asked her. Yeah, she said quickly. Just tired. Or when Connor was 5 and drew a family tree at school. He included Aunt Vanessa right next to me and David. The teacher commented on it. Connor talks about his aunt a lot. They must be very close. We were close. Vanessa visited every few months. Called regularly. Sent gifts for every birthday and holiday. I thought it was sweet. I thought she was being a good aunt. When Connor turned 7, Vanessa moved back to Sacramento. I miss you guys, she said. And I found a good job up here. Plus, I want to be around more for Connor. Red flag number 1. I ignored it. She bought a house 10 minutes away. Started coming over 3-4 times a week. Just dropping by. Making dinner. Helping with homework. Taking Connor to the park. At first, I was grateful. Single parenting while David worked long hours was exhausting. Vanessa's help was a blessing. But then Connor started saying things like, Aunt Vanessa says I have her smile. Or Aunt Vanessa told me I'm good at art like she was when she was little. When Connor was 9, David and I started having problems. He worked longer hours. We fought more. By the time Connor turned 10, we were sleeping in separate rooms. By 11, David had moved out. The divorce was finalized last year. Amicable, but sad. The perfect life had cracks everywhere. Through it all, Vanessa was there. Constant. Supportive. Maybe too supportive. Last month, Connor asked me a question out of nowhere. "Mom, do you think I look like you?" We were doing dishes together. He was drying while I washed. I glanced at him, my 12-year-old son with sandy brown hair and hazel eyes, and realized he didn't look much like me. Or David. I'd always assumed he took after Vanessa's side of the family. "You look like yourself, honey," I said. "Handsome and unique." Aunt Vanessa says I have her eyes exactly. My hands paused in the soapy water. Does she? Yeah. She says it all the time. That night, I pulled out Connor's baby photos. Then photos of Vanessa at the same age. I lined them up on my laptop screen. The similarities were striking. Too striking. The shape of his nose. The way his eyebrows arched. That specific dimple on his left cheek. I closed the laptop and told myself I was being paranoid. Vanessa was his biological mother. Of course they looked alike. That's genetics. That's normal. But the unease didn't go away. It settled into my chest and made a home there. Then yesterday morning happened. That moment in the kitchen when everything I'd been pushing down came roaring to the surface. Our son. After Vanessa left my house that Tuesday morning, making awkward excuses about being late for work, I stood in my kitchen for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. My coffee had gone cold. Upstairs, Connor was singing off-key while getting dressed for school. Normal sounds. Normal day. Except nothing felt normal anymore. I grabbed my phone and searched DNA test kit discrete. Pages of results. Home tests. Lab tests. Legal tests. My finger hovered over add to cart on a medical-grade paternity test kit. $129.99. 2-day shipping. What was I doing? This was insane. Connor was my son. Legally adopted. Raised by me. The DNA didn't change that. But I needed to know. I clicked confirm purchase. The kit arrived Thursday afternoon in a plain brown box. Connor was at school. I sat on my bed with the box unopened in my lap, hands shaking. The instructions were simple. Cheek swab for the child. Cheek swab for the parent. Seal. Mail. Results in 48 to 72 hours. That night, I told Connor I needed to do a health screening swab for a school project I was helping with. Complete lie. He didn't question it. Just opened his mouth while I gently scraped the inside of his cheek with the medical swab. Done, baby. Thank you. That's it? He asked. That's it. I swabbed my own cheek in the bathroom, hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the applicator. Sealed both samples. Drove to the post office. Dropped the envelope in the outgoing mail slot before I could change my mind. Now I waited. For 3 days, I was a ghost in my own life. I went through motions. Made meals. Helped with homework. Smiled when Connor told me about his day. But my mind was elsewhere, spinning through possibilities, preparing for answers I didn't want. Saturday afternoon, the email arrived. Your DNA test results are ready. Connor was at a friend's house. I was alone. I sat on the couch with my laptop, cursor hovering over the link. Once I clicked, there was no going back. Ignorance would be gone forever. I clicked. The page loaded. Scientific terminology. Graphs. Charts. I scrolled to the summary at the bottom. Conclusion: the alleged mother is excluded as the biological mother of the child. Probability of maternity, 0%. I read it 3 times. Then 5. Then 10. The words didn't change. 0%. I was not Connor's biological mother. But I already knew that. Vanessa was his biological mother. This test was supposed to confirm that, to close the loop of anxiety. Except. I read the fine print. This test compared my DNA to Connor's. It determined maternal relation. And it said there was none. 0 shared genetic markers. Which meant Vanessa and I didn't share DNA either. Which was impossible. We were sisters. Full biological sisters. Same parents. Same DNA pool. If Connor was Vanessa's biological child, he would show genetic markers linking him to me as his aunt. The test would show some familial connection. But it showed nothing. Statistically, Connor and I were strangers. My laptop slid off my lap. I barely caught it. My vision tunneled. The room tilted. If Connor wasn't genetically related to me at all, that meant he wasn't Vanessa's biological child either. So whose child was he? I grabbed my phone and called the DNA testing company. Waited through hold music, fingers drumming frantically on my knee. Finally, a customer service representative answered. I need to understand my results, I said, forcing my voice steady. It says 0% maternity. But I adopted this child from my sister. He should show some genetic relation to me as his biological aunt. The representative pulled up my case. Let me review. Okay, yes. The test shows no genetic markers indicating biological relation between you and the child tested. This means the child is not your biological offspring and not a close biological relative such as a niece or nephew. So if my sister gave birth to this child, he would show markers linking to me? Correct. Aunts and nephews typically share approximately 25% of their DNA. This test shows 0%, which indicates no close familial relation. I thanked her and hung up. Sat in silence for a long time. Then I called the hospital where Connor was born. Asked for records. They couldn't release them without proper authorization, but they confirmed that a baby boy named Connor Michael was born there on May 3, 2012, to a mother named Vanessa Hayes. Except now I knew that was a lie. Somehow, some way, Vanessa had faked the pregnancy or substituted a different baby. This wasn't a surrogacy situation gone wrong. This was something else entirely. I drove to my parents' house. Mom was in the garden, pruning roses. She looked up, startled when she saw my face. Sarah? What's wrong? I need to ask you something about Vanessa's pregnancy. Her expression shifted. Guarded. What about it? Did you ever see a positive pregnancy test? Did you go to appointments with her? Did you actually see proof she was pregnant? Mom set down her pruning shears. Where is this coming from? Just answer me, please. She hesitated. I saw the ultrasound photo. The one she showed us. Did you go to the ultrasound with her? No. She went alone. She said she wanted privacy for the first one. And after that? Did you go to any appointments? Mom's face was pale now. No. She moved to Sacramento pretty quickly. Said she wanted to be with you for the pregnancy. We only saw her a few times before Connor was born. Did you see her at 9 months pregnant? Mom thought carefully. Not in person. We talked on the phone. She sent photos. But we didn't drive up until after Connor was born. Your father had work, and we figured we'd visit after the baby arrived. I felt like I was falling. So you never actually saw her pregnant in person. Sarah, what are you saying? I couldn't say it yet. Not until I had more proof. I need to go. That evening, I went through old photos. Albums, digital files, everything. I found exactly 3 photos of Vanessa pregnant. All taken at odd angles. All with baggy clothes. All with her hands strategically placed on her belly. And in 2 of them, something looked wrong. The proportions were off. Like she was wearing a prosthetic belly. I zoomed in on one photo. There was a slight line at her waistband where the fake belly met her skin. So faint you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it. My sister had faked her pregnancy. But if she faked it, where did Connor come from? I needed to confront her. But I needed leverage first. I needed the whole truth. So I did what I should have done years ago. I hired a private investigator. Marcus Webb was recommended by a friend who'd used him during her divorce. 50-something, ex-cop, looked like he'd seen everything. I met him at a coffee shop Sunday morning and laid out the situation. I need to know where my son actually came from, I said. I need to know what my sister did. Marcus took notes. Asked questions. Pulled out a laptop and started researching right there. Within 30 minutes, he'd found something. In May 2012, there were 16 baby Jane/John Doe cases reported in California, he said. Abandoned infants. Anonymous safe surrender drop-offs. 3 of them were boys. One was in Sacramento, surrendered on May 2nd, one day before your son's recorded birth. My stomach turned. You think she took a surrendered baby? I think it's possible. If she had connections at a hospital, if she knew the system, she could have falsified documents. It happens more than you'd think. Not often, but it happens. How do we prove it? We get Connor's original birth records. Not the amended adoption records, the originals. And we tracked down anyone who worked at that hospital in May 2012 who might remember something unusual. For the next week, Marcus worked his contacts. I continued being a mom, making breakfast, checking homework, pretending everything was fine. Vanessa called twice. I didn't answer. She texted. Hey, is everything okay? Haven't heard from you. I didn't respond. Then Friday night, Marcus called me. I found something. Can you meet tomorrow? We met at the same coffee shop. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents. Hospital records. Birth certificates. Witness statements. There was a nurse who worked labor and delivery in May 2012, Marcus said. She retired last year. I tracked her down. She remembers your sister. Said Vanessa came in claiming she'd given birth at home and needed to register the birth. The nurse thought it was suspicious because Vanessa didn't show any physical signs of recent childbirth. No postpartum bleeding. No recovery indicators. But Vanessa had a baby with her, and she had a home birth certificate from a midwife. Was the certificate real? The midwife's signature was forged. I tracked down the midwife. She never attended any birth for Vanessa Hayes. I stared at the documents. So where did Connor come from? Marcus pulled out another page. On May 2nd, a newborn boy was anonymously surrendered at Sacramento General Hospital under California's safe surrender law. The baby was healthy. No identifying information. Standard procedure is the baby enters the foster system. But there's no record of this particular baby entering foster care. He disappeared from the system. Yes. 24 hours later, your sister shows up at a different hospital with a newborn, claiming home birth, registering him under her name. She stole him. Marcus's expression was grim. That's what it looks like. But proving it legally is complicated. The original surrender was anonymous. No DNA on file. The baby that was surrendered is technically a John Doe. And Connor has been legally your son for 12 years. Even if we prove Vanessa lied, it doesn't automatically invalidate the adoption. But he's not mine, I whispered. He's someone else's baby. Some mother surrendered him, and Vanessa just took him. I'm sorry, Sarah. This is a complicated situation. I took the folder. Went home. Sat on my bedroom floor and cried for 2 hours. Connor wasn't Vanessa's biological son. He was a stolen child. And I'd been raising him, loving him, building my entire life around him, never knowing the truth. That night, I made a decision. I was going to confront Vanessa. And I was going to record every word. I invited Vanessa to dinner Sunday night. Casual text. Feel like I've been distant lately. Want to catch up? Just us. Connor sleeping over at Tyler's. She responded immediately. Yes. I've missed you. 7 p.m.? Perfect. I spent Sunday preparing. Not food. Evidence. I printed the DNA results. The hospital records. The PI report. Everything organized in a manila folder. I set up my phone on a bookshelf with a clear view of the dining room table, camera recording. Legal in California as long as one party consents. I was that party. I made lasagna, Vanessa's favorite, and garlic bread. Opened a bottle of red wine. Set the table like nothing was wrong. At 6:55, my doorbell rang. Vanessa walked in with flowers and a smile. These are for you. Peace offering for whatever I did to make you ghost me this week. You didn't do anything, I lied. Just been busy. Come in. We ate dinner making small talk. She complimented the lasagna. Asked about Connor. Mentioned she'd found a great deal on a used bike for his birthday next month. The whole time I watched her. My baby sister. The person I'd trusted most in the world. After dinner, we moved to the living room with wine. Vanessa curled up on the couch, relaxed and happy. I've missed this. Just us talking. Me too, I said. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. Sure. What's up? I pulled out the manila folder. Set it on the coffee table between us. I did a DNA test with Connor. Her wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Why would you do that? Because of what you said last week. Our son. It's been bothering me. Sarah, I explained that. It was a slip. But it made me realize something. So I tested Connor's DNA against mine. I opened the folder. Pulled out the first page. The results say Connor and I share 0 DNA. Not even the 25% we'd share if he was my nephew. Vanessa set down her wine glass carefully. That can't be right. Those tests make mistakes. That's what I thought. So I hired a private investigator. Her face went pale. Actually pale. The color drained in real time. I pulled out the hospital records. There's no record of you giving birth at any hospital in Sacramento on May 3, 2012. There's a registration of birth, but it was filed after the fact, based on a forged home birth certificate. Sarah. On May 2, the day before Connor's recorded birth, a newborn boy was surrendered anonymously at Sacramento General. That baby disappeared from the system. 24 hours later, you showed up at a different hospital with an infant, claiming home birth. Vanessa stood up. I don't have to listen to this. Sit down. My voice was ice. You owe me the truth. After 12 years, you owe me that much. She stared at me. Something in my face must have convinced her I wasn't letting this go. She sat back down, hands trembling. Where did Connor come from? I asked quietly. For a long time, she said nothing. Just stared at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. I didn't steal him. Then where did he come from? A friend. She was in trouble. Pregnant. Couldn't keep the baby. I told her about you wanting to adopt, but she was scared of the system. Scared they'd ask questions she didn't want to answer. What kind of questions? Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. She was involved with someone dangerous. The baby's father. She was terrified he'd find out, try to take the baby, hurt them both. She wanted the baby safe and hidden. Completely off the record. My chest felt tight. So you took the baby and pretended you gave birth to him. I did it for you. You wanted a child so badly. And this baby needed a safe home. It solved everything. It was illegal, Vanessa. Falsifying birth records is a crime. Taking a child without going through proper channels is kidnapping. I know. Her voice cracked. I know it was wrong. But in the moment, it felt like the only way. The legal route would have taken months, maybe years. There would have been questions. The father might have gotten involved. I just wanted to protect the baby. And give you the family you deserved. Who was the mother? Vanessa shook her head. I can't tell you that. I promised her. Where is she now? I don't know. We lost touch years ago. I leaned back, processing. Part of me wanted to believe her. Wanted this to be a misguided good intention. But another part, the part that had been lied to for 12 years, wasn't buying it. You've been lying to me for over a decade, I said. You let me believe Connor was my nephew. You inserted yourself into his life constantly. Why? What were you getting out of this? Vanessa wiped her eyes. I love him. I've always loved him. I carried the lie for so long, and watching him grow up. Sarah, he's incredible. And I was part of giving him to you. Part of his story. I just wanted to stay close. Too close. You said our son, Vanessa. You've been thinking of him as partly yours this whole time. She didn't deny it. Just looked at me with those guilty eyes. I pulled out the final document. This is a legal statement from the PI. It outlines everything we found. The forged records. The timing with the surrendered baby. The fake pregnancy. If I take this to the police, you could face serious charges. Falsifying documents. Fraud. Possibly kidnapping depending on how the DA interprets it. Vanessa's face crumpled. Please don't. Sarah, please. I was trying to help. Were you? Or were you trying to stay connected to a child you couldn't have yourself? She sobbed. Both. Maybe both. I don't know. I just know I love Connor and I love you and I never meant to hurt anyone. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. Normal suburban night. Inside, my life was shattered glass. Here's what's going to happen, I said, turning back to her. You're going to tell me everything. The real story. Who the mother was. Where she is now. Every detail. And then you're going to give me space. You don't get to see Connor for a while. Maybe a long while. And you're going to write a full confession, every lie, every forged document, and you're going to keep it sealed unless I need it. Sarah, I can't. You can. Or I go to the police tomorrow morning. Vanessa stared at me. Calculating. Realizing I meant it. Okay, she whispered. Okay. She talked for 2 hours. The full story spilled out like poison draining from a wound. The mother was a woman named Jennifer, no last name given. Vanessa had met her at a support group for women in crisis pregnancies. Jennifer was 19, broke, terrified. The father was an older man, mid-30s, with a violent history. Jennifer was desperate to hide the pregnancy from him. Vanessa had seen an opportunity. She convinced Jennifer that surrendering the baby anonymously was the safest option. Then Vanessa waited at the hospital, watched the surrender happen, and through a contact she had, a hospital administrator she'd been casually dating, got access to the baby before he entered the foster system. I held him, Vanessa said, tears streaming. This tiny, perfect baby. And I thought about you. How much you wanted this. How much he needed safety. So I took him. I faked the pregnancy, staged photos, forged the certificate. And I gave him to you. You took someone's surrendered baby without authorization. That's kidnapping, Vanessa. I know. But he's had a good life. You've given him everything. Doesn't that count for something? I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. What about Jennifer? I asked. Does she know what happened? No. She thinks he went into the system. We lost contact shortly after. And the father? He never knew she was pregnant. Jennifer made sure of that. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The lies, the manipulation, the self-serving justification wrapped in concern. This wasn't love. This was control. This was someone who rewrote reality to suit her needs and called it sacrifice. I want you to leave, I said quietly. Sarah. Now. Leave now. And don't contact me. Don't show up here. Don't text Connor. You're done. He's going to ask where I am. I'll handle it. You've handled enough. Vanessa gathered her things, hands shaking. At the door, she turned back. I really did do it for you. No, I said. You did it for you. You wanted to feel important. Needed. Like a hero. But you're not. You're just a liar who stole a child and dragged me into it without my consent. She left without another word. I locked the door behind her, walked to the couch, and sat in the silence of my destroyed life. The next morning, I called Marcus Webb. I need you to find Jennifer. Use whatever resources you have. I need to know if she's looking for Connor. If she has any rights we need to address. It took Marcus 3 weeks. 3 weeks of me going through motions, parenting Connor, keeping up appearances while my insides churned. Connor asked about Aunt Vanessa twice. She's busy with work, I told him. He accepted it easily. Kids do. Marcus found Jennifer living in Portland, Oregon. She was now 31, married with 2 kids. Stable job. Normal life. He made contact carefully, through a third party, asking if she'd be willing to speak about a child she'd surrendered in 2012. She agreed to a phone call. I sat in my car in a grocery store parking lot when Marcus patched her through. My hand shook so hard I could barely hold the phone. Hello? Her voice was cautious. Hi, Jennifer. My name is Sarah. I understand you surrendered a baby boy in May 2012 at Sacramento General Hospital. Long pause. Yes. Why? I believe that baby became my son. Through complicated circumstances. I heard her breath catch. Your son? But he was supposed to go into foster care. They told me he'd be placed with a family through the state. He was taken from the hospital before he could enter the system. Taken by someone who falsified documents and gave him to me for adoption. I didn't know any of this until 2 weeks ago. Silence. Then, is he okay? Is he safe? He's perfect. He's 12 now. Happy, healthy, smart. He's had a good life. I promise you that. I heard her crying softly. I think about him every May 3rd. I always wondered where he ended up. If he was okay. Do you want to meet him? I asked. The words came out before I'd fully decided if I meant them. Another long pause. I don't know. I signed away my rights. I made that choice. But, can I think about it? Of course. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. We exchanged contact information. She asked me to send photos. I did, dozens of them. Connor as a baby, a toddler, through every stage. She sent back one message, thank you for loving him. I cried for an hour after that call. 2 days later, I sat Connor down. He was doing homework at the kitchen table, chewing on his pencil the way he always did when concentrating. Hey, bud. Can we talk about something important? He looked up. Sure. Am I in trouble? No. Nothing like that. I just need to tell you something about your adoption. His expression shifted. Okay. I'd rehearsed this 100 times. There was no good way to say it. You know how Aunt Vanessa is your birth mother, and she chose to let me raise you? Yeah. Well, I recently found out that's not entirely accurate. Vanessa didn't give birth to you. Another woman did. Someone I didn't know about. Connor's face scrunched in confusion. What? But you said. I know what I said. I was told something that turned out not to be true. Your biological mother was a young woman named Jennifer. She wasn't able to care for a baby at the time, so she made an adoption plan. Through some complicated circumstances, you ended up with me. So Aunt Vanessa lied? Yes. For a long time. And I'm so sorry you're finding this out now. But I want you to know something really important. I took his hands. None of this changes that you're my son. Legal, real, forever. I chose you. I've loved you from the moment I held you. That doesn't change. His eyes were wet. Do I have to meet her? The other mom? Not if you don't want to. That's completely your choice. She knows about you now, and she's glad you're safe and happy. But there's no pressure. Ever. What about Aunt Vanessa? I took a deep breath. Aunt Vanessa made some really bad choices. She lied to both of us. For now, she's not going to be around as much. Maybe someday that'll change. But right now, it's just you and me. Is that okay? Connor wiped his eyes. Yeah. That's okay. He hugged me then, tight and long. And I held my son, because he was my son, DNA be damned, and felt the foundation rebuild itself. Different than before. Stronger, maybe. Built on truth instead of lies. 3 months later, Jennifer and I met for coffee. Just the two of us. She brought photos of her family, her husband, her daughters. I brought more photos of Connor. He looks happy, she said, studying a picture of Connor at his soccer game. He is. You made the right choice back then. Even though it got complicated, he ended up somewhere he was loved. She smiled through tears. Thank you for not hating me. I don't hate you. You were 19 and scared. You did what you thought was best. Does he know about me? Yes. I told him everything. He knows you exist, that you made an adoption plan for him, that you're in Portland now. He's not ready to meet yet. But maybe someday. I'd like that. No pressure. Just, someday. We finished our coffee. Exchanged numbers. Made a loose plan to keep in touch. It wasn't a fairy tale reunion. It was just two women trying to navigate the wreckage of someone else's lies. As for Vanessa, I filed the legal documents with my attorney. Not to prosecute, I didn't want to put Connor through that, but to protect myself legally. Proof that I'd acted in good faith, that I was deceived, that the adoption was built on fraud I didn't commit. Vanessa tried calling 6 times in the first month. I didn't answer. She sent letters. I didn't open them. She showed up at my house once. I didn't answer the door. Eventually, she stopped. Mom called, trying to mediate. She's your sister, Sarah. She made mistakes, but she's family. She's a liar who stole a child and manipulated me for 12 years, I said. That's not family. That's a crime I'm choosing not to prosecute. Mom stopped calling too. Some relationships don't survive the truth. That's not tragic. That's just reality. Connor is 13 now. Last week, he asked if he could write a letter to Jennifer. Just to say thank you, he said. For giving me life and for giving me to you. I helped him write it. We mailed it together. She responded with a beautiful letter that made us both cry. There's no timeline for anything more. Maybe they'll meet someday. Maybe not. Either way, it's his choice. His story. His life. People ask if I regret adopting Connor knowing what I know now. The answer is no. Not for a single second. He's my son. The circumstances of how he came to me don't change that. What changed is that I stopped letting other people control the narrative. Vanessa thought she was writing a story where she was the hero. The selfless aunt who gave her sister a child and stayed close to watch him grow. But that wasn't the story. The real story was about theft, lies, and control disguised as love. I took the pen back. I wrote the ending. Here's what I learned: family isn't about blood. It's not even about history. It's about truth, respect, and choice. Connor is my family because we choose each other every day. Jennifer is becoming part of our extended story because she chose honesty when I gave her the chance. Vanessa isn't family anymore because she chose lies. And that's okay. Some people teach you what love looks like. Others teach you what it doesn't. If you're watching this and you've discovered that someone you trusted built your life on lies, know this: you're allowed to burn it down. You're allowed to rebuild. You're allowed to choose who stays in the new version. I've been raising my son for 12 years. Yesterday, my sister's slip made me realize he was never hers to give. Today, I know he was always mine to love. And that's the only truth that matters. Subscribe for more stories where the truth comes out.